Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks for joining us today for this live stream when we'll be talking about the opportunities for growth in, well, let's face it, these are pretty weird times that we're living in. We're all going to stop saying weird times before long and it'll be pretty normal for us to be living in crazy times. Well, I'm Mark Thomas, I'm the creator of Dual, which is a live survey tool. So we help businesses of all sizes to build audiences online and to keep engaged in conversations through live surveys. If you've heard me talking about Dupol before, which let's face it, I'm literally always doing, you'll know that Dupol is insanely good at building email newsletter lists. So we typically get 43% of people leave an email address at the end of a survey, and that means that you grow a list fast that you can own the conversation with, and that's great for business. And it's on that topic that we'll be talking today. So we'll be looking at a live survey together, and right now I'm going to just show you how to join that. So what you can do is you can click your phone's camera, and if you want to, you can hold it up to that screen right there, and you can scan the QR code right there. It'll offer you to take part in the survey, or alternatively, if you want to, you can go to do.vote, that's DOO.vote, and enter in the code !Lauren. So as I said, today we're talking about growing a business in tough times, and I am joined by well, actually, you know what, a friend of mine, but also the person who runs the all the financials and the financial operations of Dupol day to day, and that is Lauren Harvey. Hi, Lauren.
Hey Mark, thanks
How,
for putting this on.
Thanks for coming. So yeah, as I said, Lauren is the founder of Full Stop Accounts, and her mission is to help help businesses to grow, to be healthy, and to plan for the future. Is that fair, Lauren?
Yeah, you
All
well
right.
summarized.
I mean, it's not my personal mission, but it is yours, and so I didn't want to get it wrong. And I've known Lauren now for a couple of years, and both in a kind of a professional, but also in a personal context. And I can't tell you the number of times that Lauren has helped me solve some kind of business planning or financial planning question, both personally and for the business. So, Lauren, let me start off with a question here that I think a lot of people will probably be wondering about now. You're working with a pretty wide variety of businesses. Can you just, before we start here, can you just give us a feel for the kinds of businesses that you're working with?
Yeah, I think like most businesses or service-based businesses these days, you're expected to operate in a niche, or people say, who do you particularly concentrate on? Seem to spend a lot of my time answering that sort of question. But from the early days, it's more about the people. We use a lot of technology, and hence why I think we have some great conversations, Mark. But we rely on technology, but we lead with people. So for us, it's always been working with nice people. One of our other mutual friends in the early days designed me a great manifesto of nice people charter that we work with. But I think how I would describe it more in a nutshell these days is we work with businesses with purpose, and we're seeing that more than ever through the current crisis, that it's going to be those that have a strong following, a strong business model, and it's those sorts of businesses that are going to thrive in these times.
Okay. Well, it's really interesting. The kind of the situations we find ourselves in, and Laura and I were just talking about this before the call started, about all of the different challenges that can even happen in within different businesses in the exact same industry segment and things like that. It's just a totally wild time. But I just want to quickly flip over to this. So as we mentioned, today we've got a live poll running. It's obviously running on Dupol. And I just want to take a look at one of the questions that we asked people in advance now. So we asked people, how do you keep track of your cash flow? It looks like there's a good number of people who are predominantly using bank account statements. That's also matched by software. Oh, there's some responses coming in there as well. And 13% are tracking it on a spreadsheet. What surprises me, I think, or maybe I shouldn't find this surprising, is that 7% of people are currently tracking that on a well, with nothing, actually. They're not tracking it at all. Lauren, probably more than anyone, actually, aside from my father, who I grew up watching grow a business of his own, you have been the person who has told me to, or encouraged me to get a firm grip of the cash flow. Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like in practice?
Yeah, I think I've been thinking about this a lot because it's something that I love, and I realise a lot of people hate it. But I thought, why do I love a cash flow? I actually remember the first time I balanced a set of accounts at the age of 14 in GCSE business studies. And I just think I actually, I don't remember many things in school, but I remember that being like, this is magic. And but I get why most people don't look at it, because they don't think it's magic, and it's trying to show people that it doesn't have to be a full three-way forecast with a balance sheet, a P&L, and you're having people turn off right now, I'm sure, but it doesn't have to be.
Stay tuned.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be that. And I think we've spent, as a firm at Full Stop, we spent a lot of time over the last few years really trying to distill what the beauty of cash flow is. And it basically, in a word, it's the story of your business, and it's the essence of holding you to that blueprint of making it happen and tweaking, and in these times really changing course if, when you keep an eye on that cash flow, it's not going to plan.
Oh yeah, I think I just kind of say this. It's really interesting. I've been living in my cash flow recently, as I'm sure, or I hope, a lot of small business owners will be joining me in that. I think you know, I could say for myself that it's bookmarked currently on my browser window. I'm pointing over here. There's a monitor right in my face, and I found it actually genuinely pleasant. Even though, let's face it, at times a cash flow can be pretty tough to look at. Not from the kind of interpreting it, but actually just because it's difficult to kind of stomach that sometimes.
I think that's exactly right. They can be hard to look at, but if you've got good accounts behind it, these numbers shouldn't be lying to you. And actually, it's better to see it now than in 2 months when actually there's no cash left.
Yeah.
So there's that to it, and there's also people saying I don't like numbers and whatever. At the end of the day, this isn't just numbers. This is your business. Whatever your business is, you have a love of that. And back in the early days, like, I never really understood, when I was doing those business studies, the best way to understand a business, and the business studies teacher never told me. But genuinely, it came as like a flashlight to me in my 20s that, oh my God, like, accountancy and numbers and are the best way to understand it. And get back to really make sure that you're doing the best that you can in this business that you had that passion for in the early days.
Yeah, I mean, no one, I don't think, or maybe you're different in this respect, but most people don't set out, with the idea of being delighted by a cash flow when they start a business. I guess most people want to be able to, either make a lot of money or serve their customers, depending on which kind of what kind of entrepreneur they are, or a hybrid of the two. Lauren, what kind of tools are you seeing people use to manage their cash flow at this point?
So cash flows are based on good data, and good data comes from a good process that, to be honest, you need to have as automated as possible, because that's going to help you spend the time on looking and focusing on your business rather than pulling spreadsheets or bank accounts or just forcing your head together. So there's three tools that we use. Zero, we're quite heavy users of that and have been ever since we started back in 2011. I stand by it as a great tool to simplify the business data, for financial business data in your business. And then beyond that, bearing in mind we're talking about cash flow today, two particular apps. One, there's two types of cash flow. There's cash monitoring. So there's that stuff that we talk about a lot, Mark, that comfort blanket that's bookmarked, and you go in there and you spend for maybe 30 seconds, a minute each day once it's set up, and it's your comfort blanket. It's telling you that you're going to be okay till this point, or actually something unexpected has happened and you know it early enough to do something about it. Or there's the more back to what I was talking about, my magic moment of a full three-way forecast. And I think, probably this might be what turns some people off because it is quite involved. But that's what I refer to as the business blueprint and the longer term strategy in numbers.
Okay. Like I want to get into some of the kind of the more long-term strategy stuff that you're mentioning here. And I think one question that a lot of people have right now is around, what changes are we going to make post-crisis? Do you know what? I've actually found myself almost resenting calling coronavirus a crisis because I feel it validates coronavirus's extremely bad behavior.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm a new parent. So we asked our audience today whether they were planning on making changes due to the crisis, and overwhelmingly people are making or are looking to make changes. So the most popular option there with 44% was making immediate changes and planning for post-crisis. I think the next one was kind of actually surprising to me, was that there are no immediate changes and also planning for post-crisis. Lauren,
I'm seeing a lot of that second one.
yeah, so no immediate
Yeah.
changes but planning for post-crisis. Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit more about the sorts of kind of things that people are thinking about in that way?
So I think we've seen, especially for the last 7 or 8 weeks, I lose count now, but we've been saying to a lot of people, we hear a lot of people, oh, I'm just going to wait for the dust to settle, and then I'm going to see how things work out, and then I'm going to come back with my plan or my scenario. But I thought that we would probably see more scenarios by now. Maybe that's because I love scenarios. But I still don't feel that the confidence is quite there, or that we know enough, or we're being led to have confidence by the media or the government to make these scenarios yet. And that concerns me slightly. However, to whoever's listening to this, that doesn't mean not to start creating scenarios. You don't have to share them beyond your notepad or your cash flow scenario tool. I mean, I know, Mark, we spend a lot of time creating scenarios, and they're great for business ideas, and genuinely, I would, maybe it's because I have three or four for full stop alone, but scenarios are a great way to start floating those ideas in the early stages.
Yeah, I actually I was quite delighted by Float, the tool that you recommended us use for scenarios and kind of cash flow planning. What I found really pleasant about it, and I wish I could show you my scenarios, but I feel like that's probably not the place to share them on an open live stream.
Yeah.
What I found really good about it is that I can just quickly, click create new scenario on top of this kind of base reality that we keep up to date all the time, and I can just plop in the extra costs for this in this month, or maybe I've got payment terms with one of my customers, or one of the people who I'm buying services from, and I can kind of factor that in, and I think I really started to kind of be able to plan effectively when I started being able to keep those scenarios. How
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
It's,
Sorry.
yeah, I mean, it's the storyteller that, right, that I referred to earlier. Float is this tool that, we go into ourselves for full stop, with all our clients. And it really helps to put the flesh on the bones, if you like, to go, oh, I hadn't thought of that, but of course I've got that cost. Or, oh, if I'm selling that, I could add also selling to that market. It really just starts to help with and it also shows where we are right now with hospitality businesses and that type of thing as well. If they have to open at reduced capacity, for example, or anything like that, is it going to be profitable? Actually, is it worth? There's one thing talking about cash here, but the other thing, the bigger strategy part is also, if you can right now spend that time looking at profitability in the bigger three-way strategy as well, because
Right.
cash is one thing, but if and it's great to start with cash, especially if you're in business already, get that nailed, definitely. But when really starting to scenario plan your way out of this, really look at profitable items that can be profitable. For me, gone are the days of big burn rates. And I think, at least for the time being, until we have some more certainty, if you're going to put yourself through this joy or roller coaster of running a business, at least I'm planned for it being profitable right now.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting to me. It seems almost counterintuitive, given that I've spent 5 years in startup land, that somebody should say plan for profitability, because as we know, the default for startups, especially kind of VC-backed startups, is to just grow at a speed that kind of, yeah, exactly, and then eventually someone will acquire the business. We took a slightly different path and decided to try and grow a healthy business, but I've got to say, that's been a real challenge also. So it's really funny to hear you say plan for profitability. How can what are the ways that people should think about planning for profitability right now, especially when their cash flows are probably a little bit impacted by coronavirus?
Yeah, so I think if you're trading already, and you already, for people who are trading already and don't have a real grip on their cash flow regularly, I would be doing one of those cash flow monitoring tools like Float to get a daily, at least weekly, understanding of where your cash is. Nail that first, and what we then see as a step two for those businesses is doing the full strategy piece in something like Futurely or Spotlight, and that will give you then an understanding of how profitable you're going to look. Bearing in mind, we just don't know how the VC space is going to look right now. Just because I'm saying plan for profitability doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it just seems the prudent and right thing to do right now when we don't know what this changing landscape is going to be. And I'm not saying if you've got an amazing tech idea and somebody who's already interested in acquiring you, then, full speed ahead, as you say, Mark, and get as much traction as you can. Yeah. But for the majority of businesses we come across, that isn't the case. And you know what? You have to look at the opportunity cost. If you're running an unprofitable business, of what you could be doing with that time and resources instead.
Yeah, I think that's really prudent, to kind of work out what kind of position you're actually in. That kind of what you mean there?
And you know what? If you're planning for that profitable business that we're on about, there'll still be cash dips in it. You still could need, for that big idea, you could still need investment, whether it's loans or equity. But at the moment, with the Bibble scheme and the Sybil scheme for larger amounts of money, with a bit of work, the money is there, possibly more than it's been right now. We just don't know what's going to come up after this. And also, you have to remember, if you're taking on a loan or any type of debt funding, servicing the repayments of that, and that's where that bigger strategy piece and the cash flow piece comes in to make sure you're not overburdening yourself right now.
Sure. Okay. I think one kind of one question we haven't covered here is about people who are looking at a bank account that kind of almost echoes now it's so empty. What like let's kind of take off the table the idea of just cutting spend.
Yeah.
You can always cut spend. What should
And
people be
cash flow monitoring tool is great for that.
What's that? Sorry.
A cash flow monitoring tool is great
Right.
for seeing what you could cut, but let's move on from that.
Yeah, sure. I think that's the kind of we don't want to give people the stuff they can just Google, but we want to give them the full Lauren experience here. What about those people who are in that position? They've thought about cutting spend, but they're still looking to kind of turn the ship around and plan for growth post COVID or even during. Let's face it, some companies are going to hit their stride in a time of total chaos. That just happens. Yeah. What should those people be looking at right now?
Okay, so as I mentioned briefly just a second ago, there are the government schemes at the moment. So you've got what's being termed the Bibble scheme, which is the smaller loan of the two, the bounce back loan. Mm-hmm. And that's up to 50,000 or 25% of your annual turnover. At 2.5%, no interest for the first year, no capital repayments for the first year. And then beyond that, you've got 6 years to repay it with most providers charging no early redemption fees.
Sure.
So we're seeing a lot of, this has overtaken the Sybil scheme, which I'll move on to into a second, in terms of the amount of people who are having success on this. A lot of people are getting the money within days into their bank account, and it's great in how well it's getting out there. Banks like Starling, which obviously is technology native, are coming out of this really well, despite that they were slightly later to the game in setting up. And so, that cash can be in your bank really quickly. The Sybil scheme is for businesses who need more, up to £250,000, and the interest rates on that vary. But again, there's some more work involved there. You need a full three-way cash flow, that strategy that I was on about to prove viability here, because it's not fully backed by the government. So that the banking institutions are taking some risk there. So there is a lot more background checks on that one. That one, but, again, for businesses who need more, we are starting to see people receiving those amounts of money into their bank accounts.
Sure.
Obviously, this is very generic, but so there's these loans that are available, but before the loans, there's also the grants. There's the specific Welsh grants we've also had here, which have been put on ice, but we've heard that there will be a second tranche coming, particularly for the industries that are going to be shut down for longest. And the other thing is the deferrals that HMRC have been working on, the deferral of VAT, and your regular monthly, quarterly outgoings in terms of PAYE and the other taxes and corporation tax at the end of the year. Now, the VAT deferral till March 21 itself is basically a loan, an interest-free loan for up to a year. But back to the cash flow on this, you don't want to be hit then with all these payments coming in a year. So right. That's where the cash flow of knowing, okay, I've got £10,000 worth of VAT that I haven't got to pay this quarter, that I've basically got as an interest-free loan, but I really need to include it somewhere in my cash flow monitoring to know that, at least by January, I've really got to start getting it back together to have it to pay out. So yeah, all these, whether it's a deferment or whether it's a loan, obviously it's a loan, they have to be repaid. You need a plan to know how you're going to have that money, whether it's through additional sales or the dreaded cost cutting, like you mentioned.
So really, then, to just kind of summarize that, so the first thing is know what kind of position you're in. know what kind of position you'd like to be in, and then work out using your cash flow what you need to resource the kind of the bridge between those two things, and if you can access that finance either by the kind of the different government loan schemes, or, well, let's face it, there's no VC at the moment for most people, or alternatively deferment in payment of things, then that's probably the kind of the pretty generic advice of what to do. That's a good summary?
Exactly. So, yeah, definitely. And in the first step, we would look at deferment and the grants available, and then the second step, loans.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, look, if it's all right with you, I'd also like to kind of just ask you a little bit we've got about 5 minutes here. I'd just love to know a little bit, I'm kind of going to surprise you here, about you. What I think is really interesting about you, Lauren, beyond, well, I mean, there's a good number of things that are interesting about you, obviously, but one of the things that I find really interesting about you is that while you are in the job title of, business owner and accountant, you don't, and I hope all the accountants out there feel okay about this, but you don't come across as an accountant. You come across as a person who, like a partner for growth in a business. Can you talk a little bit more about why you decided to kind of almost brand yourself like that? Is that branding, or is that just a genuine kind of?
I think it's back to this thing that I love. I've always loved business. I've just never, I had no idea that an accountant back in the day was the best way to help business, but thank God I found that out. And before that, it was just, I'm just fascinated by what it can do for people's lives, and before, back to the planning thing, what we say to a lot of people now, before you get into this crazy roller coaster, plan what you really want out of it. And I see the amazing things it does to people. I love working with business owners. I think, we're a funny bunch. I love to say I'm a business owner. And for me, the accountancy is second to that, really. It always has been. It's just a tool. Accountancy for me is a tool that I use to understand business. And, you've said to me for a long time, Lauren, why didn't you used to have accountants written outside when we had our physical premises? And it's because I don't see as that first and foremost people. I see as people who love business and want to enable business.
Right.
And that in itself is the purpose of our business. And hence me wanting to work with businesses with purpose. Once you've got that, the hard times don't seem as bad.
Okay. All right. That's a great answer.
I mean, the other thing, just the other slight thing on it as well, is I didn't start as an accountant. As you alluded to, my degree's in artificial intelligence before everyone thought it was going to be mainstream. They were like, what the hell are you going to do with that? But, the beauty of having that as my background is I see technology as an extension of our team, and it allows us to be human and personable and to do all the things that probably more traditional accountants don't have the time for.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a pretty unique thing. Lauren, for anyone else who's listening, was also the Queen's accountant at one point, but she doesn't like to talk about it.
Some people don't want to hear it, but it was an amazing. I think I've accounted for lots of different things, should I say, over the years, and it's been fascinating. So many different types of business, and I think that's why I love what I do now in helping so many different types of business. All the ones who love business, you can pull strands to help anybody.
Nice. All right. Well, Lauren, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to you for taking part today. And what I'll say is, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
So the website is there, obviously, and we're available at Full Stop Accounts on Twitter, Instagram, a bit on Facebook, but the website is fullstopaccounts.co.uk.
All right. Thank you very much, Lauren. And before we leave, I'd just like to say we also have other live streams coming up. Next week, we'll be talking with Adam Parry from Event Tech Live, and that would be really, really interesting if you were into marketing or events or technology in general. He's a great guy, and we'll have a great time talking with him. I will send out details to our mailing list on that. If you haven't signed up to our mailing list, you can go to dopoll.co/blog and you can sign up there. So doopoll.co, that's DOOPOLL.co. And I'll also encourage you during these last few seconds, if you want to try to build your audience online through live surveys, then Doopoll is free to use. So you can sign up at doopoll.co to get started in minutes. I will say goodbye for now. Nice to see you, and hopefully see you again soon.